All right, we're here at episode 2, Conversations with a Duelist. Amazing Spider can't hear AK Mr. AK to watch Duelist himself. But we're on episode 2. But if you want to check out episode 1 with Gus Earl Boone, it's right here. It's on Blerd.com, so you can check them out. The interview's right there, talking about his cash deck, talking about the difficulty between Philly and Cali, YCS versus a regional. And I got some lightning round questions to ask him, so want to check that out. Please go watch that. The description, the video will be in the description. We're here at episode 2. We got a YCS champion here. We got the creator and co-host of IMNerdPodcast. So please check them out. Is Frazier Smith here?
Hello.
What's going on, good
How's
sir?
it going? These are all my good friends, literally all 4 of you. So I've known all of you for like 20 years.
It's been a while.
We got Truman Reigns here, aka the Deuce.
Yeah.
He has nothing much he's gonna say here. We got Earl Boone
Oh,
here.
I know.
Episode 1, but he's a host now. So what's up with you, sir?
Chilling. I'm doing that. I can't complain.
Definitely can't complain. This is the Matt squad. This is all from the original Matt story right here.
Yeah, right.
Shout out to Galaxy Video.
This is
the Fresh Prince of Fundamentals. Sean Brown here.
What's going on?
But also, just a reminder, Blerd.com, check them out for the article on Gus's video, his interview. Also, it's on Blerd Cartel too. So let's get to 100 views. That's all I ask. Nothing crazy. And the road to 1,000. Like, share, to subscribe. Let's get to 1,000 real quick. We're past the halfway mark. So why not? The struggle's real. So Frazier's here. So you're playing in the Edison format. So
Yes.
Can you tell the people what the Edison format is, pretty much?
So Edison format is what Konami refers to as a time wizard format. They're now supporting any format that is no longer current. So right now, like current Yu-Gi-Oh would be Kashtira, Naturia Runic, stuff like that. And Konami has decided that people want to play more than just advanced format. So they allowed, honestly, at California, the recent YCS that we just came back from, me and Gus, they had about 6 different formats. GOATS, which is pretty much the first format of Yu-Gi-Oh that had a ban list. Edison, they had a 2014 format, a 2018 format. So they had a lot of different ones, but Edison is the most popular by far. And statistically, there were 107 Edison side events at the California YCS. And if you combined every other format that had side events at the YCS, they're not even half of that. So like Edison is the most popular format outside of, current Yu-Gi-Oh right now. But basically what it is, it was a one tournament thing where Jeff Jones won. It was the 75th YCS, 75th Shonen Jump Championship, actually. And at that event, it was 2,200 people. So it was the biggest event at the time. And it's actually still one of the biggest events in Yu-Gi-Oh's history, even today. Well over 2,000 people, a lot of rounds. I think it was either 11 or 12 rounds. And the deck that ended up winning was Quick Draw Dandy Warrior, which was like an original deck made by Jeff Jones at the time. That format, though, because it was only one event, there were a lot of different strategies that no one had uncovered at the time because the format wasn't long. It was really only like less than a month. So because of that, after that event, the game changed drastically. So people like to go back and freeze it at that exact Shonen Jump Championship because there's a lot of decks like Zombies didn't really exist like that back then. I think the Fairy deck that's now played in Edison format, that wasn't a thing. Dragon Turbo wasn't a thing. The Hero Frog deck wasn't a thing. I don't think people didn't even play Diva Hero, which is a really popular deck now in Edison format. There's a new deck that just came out apparently from Duel Links, where you play like Raico's Hamsters and stuff, and that deck is now in Edison format, and it's one of the best decks. So there's a lot of like modern Yu-Gi-Oh takes being applied to a 2010 format because it's literally from the year 2010. So it's a 13-year-old format, but a lot of people are playing it and it's getting a lot of traction because it's being promoted by a lot of people, including myself. And I do a lot of YouTube content on Edison format. There's a lot of other people who do YouTube content for it, but it's really fun. It's really slow Yu-Gi-Oh. You don't die on turn 1. You don't die on turn 2. So you can play Gold Sarcophagus. A lot of the people actually do play Gold Sarcophagus because you're guaranteed to get 2 turns. And that's something that you can't just like pass your turn in modern Yu-Gi-Oh right now without dying. So
Life points were a resource. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I remember that. Was that attack format basically?
Yeah.
Like attack points actually mattered back then.
Yeah, attack definitely matters. Traps are actually good. Like traps that you set, not ones out of your hand. There are really no hand traps outside of DD Crow and Honest and Kalut. Herald of Orange Light is another one, but that's only in like 2 decks. But yeah, the format is really, really simplified compared to what you guys are doing now with like Link summoning and Pendulum summoning and Xyz summoning, and it goes up to Synchros, but it stops there. So Synchros are as far as it goes, but it doesn't even have stuff like Trishula or Scrap Dragon and stuff like that. So it's the Synchros are even pretty like weak overall compared to where, they get eventually when they start negating things. Like the biggest negate that we have is Stardust Dragon, and Stardust Dragon isn't even that good in Edison format. It's just okay.
I like that. I like that. Slow it down for me. I
Yeah,
like it on
very, very
35
slow.
to 40.
Yep.
Slow motion for you, huh?
I like it. Play Gores,
Yeah,
Slow it
Gores
down.
is playable. Gores is
like
big.
a legit opener.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of tricky stuff. Like a lot of turn ones, I'll do something like set trap, dust shoot, and pass, and then your opponent attacks you, and then you just flip dust shoot on the attack.
I love it. I like set
Look at
one
their
pass.
hand.
I love it.
Yeah, drop the Gores, put them in a bad spot. You know everything they have.
Sign me up.
I'm loving all the returning players.
Yes.
All that is given to a lot of the legacy players
Yep.
who were quote unquote retired from the game, and now they found this sweet spot for them where they feel comfortable and it's popular enough to where they can actually get their feet wet and compete at a decent level again.
Yeah, no, a lot of people have actually come back to the game just for Edison format. I know when we first started our podcast, we had our guest Dale Bolito, who's like a legend, and he's also he's a Shonen champion. But
Dale a couple times. Yeah.
Yes, Dale's really good. He plays Edison, and there's just a ton. Like I can't even name all of them because there's so many people who actually are playing it, and they're like really good players. I literally, when we went to Cali in November, I was sitting next to Barrett Keys, who's like a 2-time YCS champion, and he was playing the Frog deck. Yeah, so there's like all types of people. You'll see literally any caliber player, from people who are really like new, who just want to play something different, and you'll have people who were actually alive and playing in 2010, playing the format. So it's a nice mixed crowd. Even at our locals, like at AU, Alternate Universes, we get kids who were not alive at the time playing Edison. It's so funny. Like this is one kid who literally plays Edison every week on Thursdays. Isn't that wild, right? Like he's 12 years old, which means that he wasn't around when the format actually existed. It's so insane if you think about. But yeah, it's a cool format.
The mom and dad probably told him something, was like, yo, play this format. The other one trash.
It's so random how the crowd is so mixed, but that's Yu-Gi-Oh in general, right? Like we're all getting older now, so there's a lot more. Like we used to always say, there were always kids, but we used to be the kids, and now we're just like,
that's crazy. Just like he's like, son, I busted your mom, so I got nothing to pass down to you but this Yu-Gi-Oh format.
Oh my god, not this.
That's crazy. Yeah.
I like this.
Yeah.
Oh, what'd you showing you? I can't hear you.
Cisco, your mic's in the shadow room right now.
What'd you say? Oh, there you go.
I was saying it's interesting how we have generational duelists now. Like you actually have Gen 1 duelists, and then their kids are old enough to play to officially be like Generation 2, And like, imagine you're playing against like a former rival's son, at this point.
That would be wild.
That's crazy. Like, I can't beat this nigga, so I gotta have my offspring just like beat you.
Yeah, let's do it for the clan.
Come get beat like your pop used to.
Put that deck down,
that's the
son.
line for Friday.
Put that deck down, son. And get beat like your father used to.
Oh my god.
If I gotta live vicariously through my kid, that's just like, I don't know. That's not a win.
Get beat like your father used to is crazy.
Yeah.
My son topped. I can't. I ain't never do it.
I was just about to say that. Imagine your son top before you do.
That's what Rob is doing now. Shout out to Rob Hernandez, but I named to the face, but it happened.
Yes,
He gotta have teenagers by now.
Bring glory to the family name.
So Frazier, your earliest Yu-Gi-Oh memory, right?
Okay. You want me to go over that?
How does it compare to what you're doing now? Like, what's your like Yu-Gi-Oh time progression from your earliest Yu-Gi-Oh memory to like now?
So I started Yu-Gi-Oh when I was in, I think, 7th grade. So I was probably 12 years old, and I remember there's this one kid named Rashawn in my class who was like, let's go to the library after school, but before we go there, we're going to go to a card store. So I was like, sure. What's at this?
Receipts. Shout out to
Right.
Rashawn.
Like, what's at this card store? So we go to the card store, and I didn't even know what Yu-Gi-Oh was at the time. Like, I literally had no idea. I might have seen a commercial, and because the anime was out, but I wasn't watching it or anything. And then he gets me 3 Blue Eye starter decks, like the three of the Kaiba starter decks. And he's like, all right, you're going to play this. Like, just combine these, basically, make it 40 cards, and this is what you're going to play. We didn't know the rules and stuff, so there was no tribute summoning. And he's like, watch the show, see what they do, and then that's how you play. So we went to the library. I watched him play that first day, and then I went home, and I was like already obsessed with it for some weird reason. Like, I was just obsessed with the game day one. When I went home, like, I started trying to research and like understand what was going on. And then I started watching a show on Saturday mornings, and from there it was a wrap. Like, I just became a complete Yu-Gi-Oh fiend. And then at 13, I ended up finding Galaxy Video and stumbling upon that. I got invited there, I think, by my friend Darius, who's a mutual friend of Gus.
Yeah.
And I showed up there, and like everybody is playing like chaos decks. There's a bunch of good people there. Sean Brown being one of them. Lawrence, like a whole bunch of people that, like, all you guys know, people listening. But so I found a group of people that would basically become like family, friends, and everything, and that was also addicting. So it made me want to, every day in class, I would just be thinking about, like, I can't wait to go to the card store after class. Like, I did not care at all, even though I was a straight A student and everything, and like I was going to Catholic school and my parents paying tuition. I didn't give a damn about anything going on in class anymore. I just wanted to play Yu-Gi-Oh like so bad. Yes. So every day I would just go to Galaxy Video after school, and I was literally 13 years old.
Shout out to the privilege.
Yeah, because my parents, they were like really free with me as far as, like, they knew where I was. They were like, okay, you're either going to the library or going to this card store to play these cards. But they just like trusted that I wasn't out there doing anything crazy, and I was literally just playing Yu-Gi-Oh, which kept me out of a lot of trouble. So, and as far as what I'm doing now, so it's really crazy because, so I played Yu-Gi-Oh for a while, and I wanted to become like a YCS champion. I eventually accomplished that goal at 20 years old, and then around 26, I retired from the game because I started taking my career outside of the game a lot more seriously. So I'm an accountant full time, which is what I currently do still. And accounting is really demanding the higher you go, especially when you start managing and supervising people. So I took a break from the game and like retired from it basically because I feel like I got pretty much everything I wanted out of Yu-Gi-Oh! I became a household name. I was sponsored. I flew all around the world, literally out of the country, in the country. Like, I did a lot of traveling with my friends, made a lot of memories. And pretty much everyone who played the game around my time, like, they knew who I was. And that felt really good. So I wasn't bitter or anything when I was deciding to remove myself from the game. And I thought that I would never play again, which is interesting. And then in like during the pandemic changed everything about my life because I never saw myself as being someone who's considered like a creative per se. And in 2021, a couple things happened. One, I started a podcast, the IMNerdPodcast, in 2021 in July. And that's because I started working from home because of the pandemic. So
awesome content, by the way. Awesome content.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. So the pandemic changed everything because the whole world changed, and it allowed me to have a lot more time. I used to have to go into the office 5 days a week, and that takes up a lot of your time, like commuting and then actually being there for 8 hours. But when I started working from home, I realized I had a lot more free time because I can get all my work done. And then because I didn't have to commute anywhere, I'm just already home. I'm already in front of my computer. I invested in a really nice setup where I have like a microphone, a webcam, and like green screen, as you can see, like all this stuff. And we've been doing the podcast on just like a bunch of different nerd topics, Yu-Gi-Oh, of course, but literally everything, Marvel, anime, video games, TV shows, all types of nerd content. And that just sprouted from me listening to podcasts during the pandemic and deciding that I wanted to create one that I wasn't seeing in the market already. Like, there are tons of podcasts. If you want like a Naruto podcast or a One Piece podcast or a Star Wars one or a Game of Thrones one, all of those exist. But I didn't see anything that just had a ton of different nerd topics all in one, right? Like there wasn't really one that I found that was like everything that nerds like basically in one place. So I figured I'll just make it. And even more recent, well, I should say, yeah, even more recent in 2022 in January, my one friend who joined our IMNerdPodcast Discord server, he was a supporter on our Patreon. He said, "Do you mind if I post a link to a tournament that's happening right now that's being live streamed on YouTube?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. I don't care if you post it. Like, post your link." So I posted the link, and it was an Edison tournament happening on Dueling Book, and the guy was live streaming it on YouTube. So I clicked it and I started watching it. At the same time, I was in my living room, and I was just kind of chilling. I didn't really have anything to do that day, and I found myself watching the entire day, which was like 9 hours of the tournament, and I immediately started to feel it again. Like, I was like, "Oh no, I shouldn't play this game again." Like, but then I just kept watching it.
He's like, it's getting to me.
Yeah, I relapsed because I watched the first round. They actually featured, and it makes sense why they did it, but they featured Dale Bolito was playing against somebody in round one, and watching him play, I was like, well, shit. Dale was like, one, he's been on my podcast, and two, he's a really good player from my time as well. So seeing him on it playing in that tournament, I messaged him. I was like, yo, do you like the Edison format? Like, how is it and stuff like that? And we talked about it for a while. And then I decided, okay, you know what? I'm going to invest in it. So I ended up spending $5,000 and bought every single Edison deck in like a single month. I think it was on TCG Player. It was like 116 different places I bought all the cards from, because like TCG Player is basically a marketplace where all the cards are being sold from different vendors. So I added every single card for Edison, like everything, literally everything. I wanted Lightsworn, I wanted Gladbeast, I wanted Blackwings, I wanted Diva Hero, I wanted Machina, I wanted Frogs, I wanted Volcanics, I wanted Ancient Gears.
Awesome.
I bought literally everything. And
Volcanics just got some new cards, by the way. They just got some new cards.
In Modern? In current Yu-Gi-Oh?
Over 15 years, so we got some support.
Oh,
They
wow.
good.
But
Yeah, I like that they do that.
Frazier, hold on a second, real quick. Gus, I want to ask you, what's your earliest dueling memory of Frazier when you played him?
I remember.
I think I remember it was a store we used to go to that's not that far from AU. I think it was in Derby.
JMC Collectibles.
Yeah, him and I seen Eric, your man Eric in there.
Eric Washington.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Darkness.
I said,
Hello, Darkness, my old friend.
Darkness.
But I used to I kind of picked with him, man. For he's like somewhat like we was rivalry.
Yes,
he talked
definitely.
trash, and I definitely used to talk shit to him all the time. But you know, I grew to love him. You know, what I mean, at the end of the day, and then like you know, what I mean, I've been like just protecting a lot of shit. Like I've been riding with him, and he ride with me. No, because a lot of people used to be
magic between y'all two. I thought it'd be game magic between y'all two.
No, bro, it's beyond. It's beyond Galaxy, bro. Like it's
so
like
my actual first memory of Gus is me. Gus used to have a water deck, and this is when Abyss Soldier was out, and it was like a card that was kind of hard to get. And I remember playing against Gus's water deck. He had Abyss Soldiers, Penguin Soldiers, Aqua Spirits, all this fly shit. And I was playing Chaos, like just regular Chaos. And I remember it was actually hard to like win against the water deck. But I would like do stuff and end up pulling out victories. And eventually you guys started calling me Little Yugi. Like that was my name back in Galaxy days. Like it's crazy. But I remember that water deck from a while ago. Like, you know, pitching a monster, bounce stuff to your hand, and then attack it for 1800.
But can you imagine? I used to when I used to play people. We didn't learn about the priority thing until a certain time.
We didn't know about that at all.
We ain't knew about people was doing it to us, and I was like, "Why?" I like this thing is his ass. But then once the priority thing started again, I'm like, "Oh, it really made things
wild."
Yeah.
Priority exists in Edison format, by the way. That shit is crazy.
Fresh Prince of Fundamentals. What is your early Frazier Smith dueling memory?
Oh man, I would probably have to say it was Galaxy Video, and at the time we had maybe did like 1 or 2 Galaxy tournaments, and I did pretty well. I think I had won one of them, and I was pretty much feeling myself at the time. And I seen Frazier, and I had challenged him to a match, and we had a Sacred Phoenix of Nephis Ultimate Rare.
Yikes!
Yep. And I'm thinking like, oh man, this is going, you know what I mean? It's going to be a match, but I'm in here. We're going to do this. And then he took my Sacred Phoenix from me.
Oh, that's right. Back then, people used to play for cards. I missed that.
Yeah.
And that like,
that's a lost art.
Real serious about it because it was like a reality check. Like, all right, wait a minute. I'm just used to winning just off of just like, I guess like talent or intuition, but like it really made me sit back and was like, well, how the hell did this go down? Like, let me start analyzing.
Keep in mind, at the time, I am fully 13 years old. Just keep
like, I think I'm like 16 at the time.
I am fully 13 at the time.
Yeah, a little 13-year-old coming in there trashing everybody.
Trollman Range, do you have a memory with Frazier or no? Is Galaxy Radio?
Only, I never ran into him in Galaxy. It was more of a AU situation. I was playing Agents at the time, and he trashed me. It wasn't even a match.
Nice story.
It was short and quick. It was too long.
He breaks off me. End of story.
Yo, did you ever beat him?
Yeah, before.
I'm just trying to tell you, Smith,
down the line.
Smith.
Down the line.
Down the line.
I honestly I would remember.
I
was playing Evil Sworn. He had like a water deck or something like that. What's that? The land John? Mermaid, yeah. It was like around
that's 2012.
Yeah,
2012, 2013.
Yeah.
I literally, you could be right. I have no idea. I will give it to you. I have no clue.
Like my memory from that time is kind of faint too. The only thing I remember is Dragon League.
Yeah. Like 20 years of history.
Mine would be JMC also. JMC.
Yeah.
Had an injection fidelity deck.
Oh yeah.
That's when I first played Frazier. So
I remember playing you too, Cam, because you had a Fiend deck, and you were the first person I saw who had like a really refined Fiend deck with 3 Slate Warriors, which was hard to get because it came from a video game, like 3 Dark Necrofear, 3 Giant Germ, Creature Swap, Giant Orcs, like all of the fixings, right, for Fiends. And that deck was scary as hell because if I summon BLS or something and you would summon Dark Necrofear and crash it into it and then steal it. And back in the day,
that's 2 episodes in a row. I get celebrated. You know, maybe a thing. Maybe a thing for me to come back. I don't know.
Listen, I remember that Fiend deck. I remember Dark Necrofear.
My favorite opponent. Now I got the refined Fiend deck. Shout out to Derek, by the way.
Derek.
I remember you did not kill Cam. Cam was still your monsters and killed you back.
Yes. It taught me how to hold back. Like you have to not throw all your shit out there turn 1 or you know, as early as you can, basically, because Dark Necrofear was good. And back then, I don't know if y'all remember this, but the ruling that we had, because you know, Matt, we had all kinds of weird rulings in the store, but the ruling we had for Dark Necrofear was that if you like MST'd it while it was attached, it would re-equip.
Yeah, he used to beat the shit out over that next shit all day long. I'm like, come on, man, let's start. Phil, take your shit. Man. I'm like, come on, man.
Real quick before we move on, shout out to fucking Jerry, light skin ass, for the free the matchless general. Can't take
it.
Jerry and Lawrence. Jerry and Law.
Let's go to the deck that he presented.
Yes, I'll talk about this. Okay, so there was
myself on the screen. No.
All right.
Let me start my camera. There we go.
Yep. I guess okay. So there was this was March 27th. This is like a couple weeks ago. This is 2 weeks ago. There was a Edison 3v3. This is the first ever Edison 3v3 tournament, and I teamed up with my friend Stango, who I'm currently training. He started Yu-Gi-Oh in 2020, and I teamed up with my friend Cairo King, who's also he lives in Korea now, but he used to be a United States resident, and he plays Diva Hero. Yep. So I've been training Stengo throughout the last 3 years of me like coming back to Yu-Gi-Oh and just kind of like watching and observing Yu-Gi-Oh. And they made this announcement for this tournament. So I decided that me and Stengo, my pupil, because we do a series on YouTube called The Master and the Pupil, I decided that me and him will play the exact same list. All 70 of our cards are exactly the same. So the same 40 main deck, same extra deck, same side deck. And the idea was because you can coach each other, right, during the 3v3, it's like a special thing about 3v3 tournaments, because you can coach each other, which I'm normally doing on our series anyway. Like, I'm always critiquing his plays and telling him what to do and telling him how to do it correctly and why you should do it. He's learned a lot. He's gotten a lot better. But more importantly than that, it's basically like I have an extra life. And that is a really, really powerful thing for a good player to have. Like, if I lose, so I could lose to my opponent, but if the other two people on my team win, we win the whole round, because you have to win. Two of your people on your team have to win. So it's a 3v3, and me and him play the same list. So if I lost, I could just literally like help him out, and then he would win. And then I didn't have to help Cairo at all, really, because he's just really good with his deck. Yeah. And we all ended up playing Absolute Zero deck. So this is the Frog version of it. Cairo played a different version, but the Frog version of it, I think, is one of the best decks in the format. It's like top 3, and I don't really know where exactly to put it, but this is one of the top 3 decks in the format. And it plays Stratos, which is an insane card of Yu-Gi-Oh's history. It plays Caius, which is the best Monarch basically ever. And Ryza, also insane. Substitute, one of the most ridiculous cards ever printed. The card literally has been banned until this year. Like, it just got unbanned in 2023. And it just like, it capitalizes off of people who set monsters, because in Edison format, setting monsters was still a thing that you can do and get away with. Like, Raiko is really good in the format. Super Nimble Mega Hamster's good. Gravekeeper Spy is good. But Monarchs don't care about any of that. So this deck really messes up people who like to set. And if you only commit one card at a time, you'll lose to Monarchs, because they are good with dealing with one card at a time. So you kind of have to like try to rush the deck down. But what's complicated about that is that if you try to rush me down, then I just can Threatening Roar, Battle Fader you, and then I can reversal you with enemy controller to steal your monster and then clear your whole field. So the deck is like really, really consistent, because there are, so we call like Yu-Gi-Oh like starter cards, right? So Substitute's at 3, Swap Frog's at 3, Treeborn's at 2, so that's already 3, 6, 8. That's 8 starters right there. And then Stratos and the E-Call and Eroda are also starters. So that's another 3. So that's 11 starters that just, if I draw any of those cards, any of those 11 cards of my deck in my opening hand, and you draw 6 when you go first in this format. So if you draw any of those in your opening hand, your hand is good automatically. Like, if I draw any of those 11.
I love me some enemy controller. Look at 3 of them.
Yes.
That was your favorite card. That was your favorite card back in the day.
Yes, I love one of the best cards in the format. It is very, very powerful, because Brain Control is the best card in the format, in my opinion. I did a tier list video on my YouTube channel, so check that out. But Brain Control is the absolute best card in the format. It is the most toxic card. It is wild. The only card that is close to it, but not on its level, is Trap Dust Shoot. Is also another ridiculous card. But a lot more games, I think, end because of Brain Control than anything else in the format. So enemy controller in a Frog deck, because of Treeborn Frog, is just more copies of Brain Control. So I'm essentially playing 4 copies, where most people are able to only play 1, because most decks can't support enemy controller in this format. And the Frog deck just has like a lot of natural advantage. You can think about it like this. So everybody draws 1 card per turn, but the Frog deck, once it gets Treeborn Frog in the graveyard, which is the whole point, once it gets Treeborn Frog in the graveyard, it's like you draw 1, but then you also, on your standby phase, you bring back Treeborn Frog, which is another card. So you basically are like drawing 2 cards every turn. And over time, that is just too much card advantage, so it grinds your opponents out of cards. So if the game goes long, I'm most likely going to win. On top of the fact that long games favor good players, because over time people make more mistakes, and obviously a good player is going to make less mistakes. So if I can extend the game, which is what my deck is designed to do, I have 3 Threatening Roars, 2 Battle Faders, Mirror Force, and then I can even use Econ as a defensive card if I need to, and then Gores and stuff like that. So it's really hard to kill me, and the format is also slow anyway, so killing people early is really difficult. On top of that, Dupe Frog has like a really interesting interaction where, if you have Substitute and Dupe Frog, so Substitute says your frogs can't die by battle. Dupe Frog says you have to attack this card. So if Substitute and Dupe Frog are both on the field, you have to attack Dupe Frog, and it can't die by battle. So that is a lock, but then it gets even more difficult if I go 2 Dupe Frogs, because they both say you have to attack this card, which means you can't attack at all. So the deck is designed to literally like stall the game out for a while, until it develops the exact setup that it wants, and then you can't attack me, but then I'm summoning Monarchs on you and attacking you. So it's just a really, really cool deck. And then the hero package with Miracle Fusion, perfect synergy, because Absolute Zero requires a water monster, and the whole deck is basically water. So yeah, Miracle Fusion is ridiculous. It's one of the best monsters in the format, Absolute Zero, and that guy gets like Yes,
Swap
and
off,
that guy
bounce it
gets
back. You bounce
huge.
everything back.
So
Yes.
we're gonna give everybody on the panel one question to ask. I just want to ask about the malicious edge. That's been
Yep.
my question since I saw it.
So malicious edge is some new. I call it I call Edison format right now like new Edison or 2020 Edison. 2020 Edison format. Malicious edge is played now. It was never played before, and the reason it's played now is because there's a couple things. So he is a 2600 monster. He's one tribute if your opponent controls a monster. So if they control a monster at all, and you don't have to control anything, you can control a monster or not. So even if I do have a monster, as long as you just have a monster in the field, I can use it. I can use one tribute for it. So that's the first thing. So it's basically a monarch, right? He's 2600, 1800 defense, and he tramples. So he does piercing damage. And in Edison format, there are a lot of monsters that just don't have defense. For example, Treeborn Frog has no real defense. Scapegoat, Dandelion tokens. Raikou has 100 defense. Raikou's the most common set monster in the format. So 2600 trample is actually a shitload of damage in the format. On top of that, he's obviously a hero. He's Earth, so that's kind of relevant too. And so you can make Elemental Hero Gaia with him. And then the other thing is that he's searchable by Stratos. Now, why that is important is because Monarchs in Edison format are not searchable at all. You have to raw draw your Monarchs. But when you have Stratos, and I played 3 copies of Stratos between Rhoda and Ecall, Stratos can essentially search a Monarch because of Malicious Edge. So that's kind of what his purpose is he's a searchable Monarch. So when I turn 1, if I have Stratos in my hand, I can go Stratos, search Malicious Edge, and now even if I don't have a Caius or a Ryza, I can still really put pressure on you with this 2600 monster by bringing back Treeborn Frog, tributing Treeborn Frog, summoning this guy, and then I have Stratos and a 2600 guy to trample. So it's a lot of damage, and he's big. He's actually bigger than Stardust Dragon. He's bigger than all the Monarchs. He's pretty big. But yeah, that's
Honestly, even if you trade 1-for-1 with a Raikou, you're still inflicting that piercing damage. So
yeah, it's a lot.
Not really 1-for-1. You're still netting from that exchange. Yeah.
Also, there's Evil Hero Infernal Prodigy in his deck, the card in the top right, and that card says if you tribute it for a hero monster summon, you draw a card on your end phase. So it's a nice little combo. If you have Infernal Prodigy and Malicious Edge, you can special summon Infernal Prodigy and then tribute it off immediately for Malicious Edge. And that really makes Malicious Edge like a Monarch, because now he draws a card on the end phase basically, and he's 2600 trample still. So it's like 2600 trample, draw a card on the end phase is basically better than like most Monarchs. It's really, really good. So that guy's pretty insane.
Fresh Prince of Fundamentals, you got a question about the deck?
Well, it's more like a review of anything. It's sort of like I've noticed that this isn't really how the deck was built back in the day.
No.
But it's like you take a lot of the knowledge that we've acquired throughout the years and kind of refine it, because like before we wasn't really thinking about how many starters. Like we knew what starters were, but like it wasn't a formula in this sense. Like
it wasn't like this.
Yeah, this is a lot more methodical and a lot more intent to it. So how does that translate when, like, all right, you have your knowledge from, you have your earned knowledge from back in the day, and then you still have to, like, you're coming against like new decks, but like they're not really new decks. They're since the old decks, but it's sort of like that's the question I was trying to ask. Is like, how is it translating over? Like, if you're playing against a player, you're like they're Blackwing, but like, what new stuff are they adding in to it? You know what I mean? Like,
so I can answer that. So basically, the good thing about Edison format, a couple things actually. One of them is there's a website called edisonformat.com that is made by the community, and it is absolutely phenomenal for getting into Edison. Like, literally, the only reason I think I even got into the format, if I'm being completely honest, is because there is a website like this that has the ban list, right? So it tells you all the cards you can play, and then it has every single deck that has topped any of the Edison tournaments, because there's so many Edison tournaments now. It is every single deck, and it makes it where if you click on them, you can download them in the Dueling Book without having to like manually do it. So you can test play on Dueling Book any deck you see. You can just test play them. So that was kind of the beginning. Is like you can just say, oh, I've never seen this fairy deck before because this didn't exist in 2010. Like there's a fairy deck that just literally didn't exist, and it summons Archlord Christia, and it plays 3 copies of Christia, 3 Shining Angels, 3 Nova Summoners, Honest, and all that stuff. Free to Brave Wanderer, Soul of Purity and Light. Like it did not exist back then.
No.
And so you're like, oh, I want to test this out. And then you test these decks out at the click of a button. And what happens is you take your new Yu-Gi-Oh knowledge, like everything that you know about Yu-Gi-Oh in 2020, you take that knowledge and you try to apply it to Edison, and you see what works and what doesn't work. At first, when I first got into it, I'll be honest, you try to break the format. You try to like cram every idea of modern Yu-Gi-Oh, like set up a big board, set Royal Oppression and pass and like win, because that's what modern Yu-Gi-Oh tries to do. It doesn't actually work like that in Edison format. And you try at first to like, you're trying to put a triangle into a circle, right? Like you're trying to force that shape into another. It doesn't really work. So what happens is at first you come in trying to break the format, and then you realize this shit is harder than you think, because there's a lot of decks and they're all competitive. Like Gladbeast destroys this deck. Like it is a terrible matchup for me if I play against Gladbeast. I can beat it, but it's like a 70-30 matchup. It's really bad in Gladbeast's favor. But then like at the same time, a lot of people don't play Gladbeast. So it's really good because as a meta call, Frogs is in a good position because Gladbeast is kind of frowned upon. Like a lot of people don't play it. But in the 3v3, I actually played against Gladbeast round 1 and I lost. But luckily, my 2 friends on my team, they beat the other 2 people, so it didn't matter. It was like, well, I basically got an extra life, is what I was talking about earlier. And so a lot of deck building goes into like, you have to accept that your deck is going to have a bad matchup. Every single deck has a bad matchup, right? And you just build, you don't build for your bad matchups, you just build to your strengths. So I'm not trying to make my Gladbeast matchup any better, honestly. Like if I just play against Gladbeast, I accept that if I don't God hand them, I'm probably going to lose. And that's okay, because it's not that well represented. But yeah, you take all of that information and you test play a lot, and then you make tech choices, because despite the fact the format is 13 years old, there's still new tech being discovered that is like groundbreaking every couple months. There's like some new shit that happens, and it just completely shakes up the format. Like I said, the Machina deck that people are playing right now came out at the end of last year, and it is like topping and winning tournaments and doing really well. And it just did not exist at all before that. Like before the end of 2022, that deck just wasn't a deck. And so that means that people are still able to come into the format and literally customize, make some custom deck, and it can be good. And that keeps people drawn to the format because it never gets stale.
Real quick, Trauma Reigns, did you have a question about the deck before you get into the side deck and the extra deck?
Okay. I don't know if you explained it. Can you explain the Junk Warriors in the deck? What they're there for?
So I was waiting for somebody to ask about Junk Warrior or Junk Synchron. So Junk Synchron is really... Yeah, Junk Synchron is real. Well, Junk Warrior's in the deck too. He's an extra deck. But Junk Synchron is broken because it is a 3-star tuner that summons a level 2 or lower back from the grave, right? So if you notice, I played 2 Dupe Frogs. I played 3 Swap Frogs. Treeborn's in the deck. Evil Hero Infernal Prodigy, which is searchable with Stratos. And then technically Battle Fader, even though it usually gets banished. So there's plenty of targets. So that's the first thing. What it does, though, is it's a 1-card Catastor or 1-card Magical Android. And Catastor is really good in this format, like really, really good. But the other thing about Junk Synchron, and this is a combo with Swap Frog. This is actually one of the most broken things about this deck. So if Swap Frog is in the graveyard, Swap Frog has an effect that says, once per turn, you can return a monster you control to your hand.
I think I saw you do this once. Yes,
and it's a cost to do that. Junk Synchron negates the effects of the monster that he summons back, but because it's a cost, it doesn't matter. So what you do is you go Junk Synchron, bring back Swap Frog. Then you go Swap Frog effect, activate, target Junk Synchron, bounce it back to your hand. And so Junk Synchron is now in your hand, and you got a free Swap Frog on the field. And what this can do is every turn, it's really annoying for your opponent who's trying to aggro you, because every turn you're like, bring back Treeborn Frog, then summon Junk Synchron, bring back Swap Frog, then bounce the Junk Synchron back to my hand. Now they have to kill 2 monsters to touch your life points. And it's really, really broken if they only have 1 monster, because then you're like, okay, bring back 2. You can only kill 1. So now you start to advance your field. And I can bring back Dupe Frog, and then it gets really, really annoying. He also allows you to, if you have access to Treeborn Frog, you can bring back Treeborn, summon Junk Synchron, bring back a 2-star, and make Brionic instantly. So basically, you have a 1-card Brionic, 1-card Goyo Guardian. The only other deck that can do that is Black Wings, and Black Wings is what I consider the best deck in the format. Not by a lot, but it is the best deck in the format. And that deck has 1-card Brionic, 1-card Goyo Guardian, 1-card Android, 1-card Catastor. And this is Junk Synchron allows you to do the exact same thing because they play 3 Blizzards. So Junk Synchron does like the same thing where it brings back a monster from your graveyard and it makes a synchro monster that's not okay to make with 1 card. So the card is really, 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 really broken in this deck. And it gives the deck something else to do besides just summoning monarchs. Like, it's not linear because you don't know what I'm going to do. Like, I could Caius you, but I could also just summon Junk Synchron to make Brionic and start bouncing your shit. And then I can Miracle Fusion you. And like,
there's a nexus point to
yes,
deck. It's like to make other paths to what you're trying to do.
Yep, it does a lot. You can also Black Rose people. So, and that comes like Frog decks don't Black Rose people normally. So, like, out of nowhere, I could be like special summon Swap Frog, normal summon Junk Synchron bring back another 2. So that's 2, 3, 2, that's 7. Synchro for Black Rose. And then in that play, like, this is the last thing I'll say about it, but in that play, right? So if I bring back Treeborn, special summon Swap Frog, normal summon Junk Synchron, bring back a 2, I can then use Swap Frog to bounce the Treeborn Frog back to my hand. So that now I don't even go minus on the Swap Frog that I special summon from my hand. And then I can synchro for Black Rose with a... It's just like crazy. Like, the deck has so many plays. It's really good. Also, bouncing your monarchs with Swap Frog.
It has so many lines outside of the monarch.
There you go.
Gus, you got any questions about the deck before we get to the side and the extra?
Yeah, I see what he's doing, and then I think it'd been cool if like if you ran a Christia. If you ran a Christia, you'll be really scary people.
So there's a build of the Frog deck that it's a fairy version of it, and I'm still working on it, but it does play Christia, and that deck is scary as hell. Like, it's very scary because it plays like 3 soul exchange and everything.
So this is the side deck and the main deck.
Yep. So the side deck 3 Vanity's Fiend. So he was talking about Christia. Vanity's Fiend is a 1 tribute Christia, 2400 monster like a monarch. Yeah. And this card has been played in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Vanity's Fiend is just broken as fuck. Like, the card is crazy. But yeah, Vanity's Fiend, neither player can special summon monsters. So in the mirror match, it's really good. And against a lot of the decks, because a lot of the format, as you can imagine, people want to special summon because that's what Yu-Gi-Oh's become in modern formats. So people still apply the special summon as many times as you can think. So Vanity's Fiend is just broken. And against certain matchups, it just completely shuts those decks down. It's also really easy for this deck to get it out because of 1, Treeborn Frog, and 2, Soul Exchange. Sirocco is for Black Wings because he actually pumps himself for every Black Wing on the field, yours and theirs. So Black Wings is one of your hard matchups. It's the best deck. So it's one of your hard matchups, and this card, like, Sirocco helps to really mess them up because they swarm the field. They can go attack you, and then you go Battle Fade or a Threatening Roar. And then you go summon Sirocco, pump, gain all of the attack. Usually it's going to be like 6,000 attack. And then you attack their monster, and they take like more than half their life points. On top of that, if you have a Threatening Roar, and you set it, and they try to attack the Sirocco next turn, you can go Threatening Roar, then draw, and then do it again. So it's like really funny. Yes, Sirocco's really, really good.
I remember that when they used to side that against Black Wings, Sirocco the Dawn. That was like the sure way to kill your opponent, especially if they was playing Black Wings. You just side in your Siroccos and just kill them. You let them summon that board, and then you summon Sirocco and just kill them. And most of the time, they would typically leave a Gale on the field for what apparent reason they would leave it on the field. So, I remember that.
That's a side in the extra deck. We're gonna watch a replay real quick.
Yep, and you can just do fast forward on the replay too, and make sure you mute those dueling book sounds because they're annoying.
Okay.
By the way, I just watched that movie Megan like last night, and it is a rant.
Yeah,
it is a rant.
You seen the song? You seen the song that you played?
Especially her dancing. Yeah, that is the worst.
Yeah.
That's the best. But
she was dancing in the hallway.
That was like one of the best
in the hallway.
Yeah, that was wild.
Dancing in the hallway too good.
All right, click show both on the left. So where it says show both.
Hold on.
So show both. And then click fast. You can click fast forward. So
mute the sounds.
Hold on. Where's the mute button?
Oh yeah, on the far right. Right there. Yep. Okay. So you should be able to fast forward it now. So if you click fast forward, it should start playing it. All right, so my opponent bricked, as you can see, but I actually also bricked because I don't have Treeborn Frog access. But then he draws one of the best cards in his deck, which is a Stratos for Machines. He goes attack. I'm like, okay, I need this monster to tribute next turn, so I'm not going to let you do that. So I flip Junk Synchron. He now knows how bad my hand is, but I don't care because I drew Substitute. So Substitute allows me to do this trick. So watch this. I bounce the Junk Synchron into my hand now, and now my whole deck is on. Like my whole deck is turned on now. He gets a Raikou, which I told you is bad. Setting monsters against the Monarch deck is terrible. So I summon Ryza, and he bottoms this. And I love when people use traps on your Monarchs because they're pluses at that point. I use Treeborn Frog or whatever, and then you use the real trap. So you actually kind of go minus there. But now my whole deck, again, it's turned on. His hand is still not good because he has to set monsters. Also, Heavy Storm, MST, Dust Tornado, those cards are terrible against Monarchs because we don't really have much for you to destroy in the back row. I'm doing my typical Junk Synchron swap
so much
thing.
better than this.
Yes.
Right now.
Man, DD Warrior, I know that card.
Yep. Bring back Treeborn, summon Caius.
Oh my god.
And then
Look at
what's
the
cool
man.
is that the Swap Frog is still on the field. So every turn I can just keep doing this.
This is
That's
And-
crazy,
work.
man.
I
And
knew
now
he
he
was
has to
gonna
solve
solve
it.
Yup.
Not half your life points.
Yep. Which I'm perfectly fine with. I'm perfectly
Wow.
fine with this transaction.
He literally
I-
killed himself.
Yep. And I have Gores in my hand. So now it's about to get real bad because he's going to attack me. I got Battle Fader. I'm like, okay. Miracle Fusion.
I need a
Here comes that
hero.
Raikou you was talking about.
Yep. So
Okay.
Absolute Zero gets really big because of Water Monster. So that Absolute Zero is actually 3,500.
Yikes.
I fuse with it because he Book of Mooned it, so now I just have another Absolute Zero on the field. And here it's like it's really hard to deal with Absolute Zero because no matter how you deal with it, he's going to kill all your monsters.
This is
So he
nasty
goes-
work.
Yep, he goes for pot. So right now, if you notice, I haven't been touched. I'm at 7,800 basically, and he's really low, and I have Brain Control in my hand. So at any point, I'm just going to kill him if he ever puts a monster on the field. So now he's at 300, which is like literally if you put anything on the field, I'll kill you. And this Swap Frog is eventually going to force him to start using really bad cards against it. Like you don't want to ever have to do that. Yep.
Some of that Caius
Another
again.
exchange.
Yep. He bottoms his Macaius. Yep. Another plus. Flip, attack for game, and that's game one. So even
much
though I
control.
bricked, even though I bricked, I still just like grinded it
Nasty
out.
work. Stratos in the opening hand. That's
Yes.
nasty work.
So here is the best opening in the deck, Stratos and Swap Frog, because you can actually
Oh my
go,
God.
you can get both Treeborn Frog turn one and a Stratos Search turn one. And then if Swap Frog is still on the field, you can bounce the Stratos, but he decided to kill it with Raikou, which I'm totally fine with.
Troop Duke.
Yep. Summon Card Trooper. All right, I draw Ryza, which is great, because now I get to Ryza his Card Trooper. He bottomless again. Again, that's a plus. Every time they do that, every time they use a trap on your Monarch, a Deep Prison, a Mirror Force, a bottomless, that's great. Get it for 2,500. Now remember, this guy's hard to deal with, so he uses 2 cards to deal with my Absolute Zero that I use 1 card to make.
Where's the Kells meme, man? I'm fighting for my fucking life here.
Yep, Swap Frog, Bench Drunk Synchron.
This is getting bad for us.
Yep, look at my life points though. Pay attention to how much life I have. Like it's so hard to touch me.
You're watching them minus in real time. That's
Every
just-
time, every time he's just minus,
Yep.
minus.
Oh, he get.
Look at him struggling.
Oh, all right. That was good.
And
Oh,
here goes
yeah,
where this
no,
guy
that
is.
hand.
This guy is
Yeah.
broken because he's 2,600, and I draw a card on the end phase.
The pluses.
Yep, the pluses. I get my Treeborn back because he
Oh
actually
my
got rid of my
God, you
Treeborn.
ran.
Oh,
2,500 trample. Then
Yeah.
I thought, yeah, it's just like so
35.
much.
I take that 35.
Yep.
Pot.
He's like real behind. He's like really behind.
Yep. He's really, yeah, I am. But if he didn't have that pot,
Huh.
so he's like, summon this card. Fast Line is great against this deck. I go set Dust Tornado because I don't trust trying to just attack his Fast Line with Junk Synchron because he has a back row. So I want to set Dust Tornado first. So this way I got rid of the Solemn. Now I can just attack over it. Then in main phase 2, I can special swap and bounce the guy back to my hand. So look at how annoying this is.
This is nasty work.
You're gonna be seeing the same monster forever.
This is so bad for him. Yeah,
Summon
Brie.
Brio, bounce it to your
I
hand.
ain't got no card in my hand. You take that.
Yeah. So that was one of my rounds. That was one of the later rounds too. So that guy actually ended up going all the way. That's the person who got first place. His team got first place.
Yeah.
I won that game, that whole round, and then my teammates actually lost that round. So we ended up losing that round, but I ended up winning that duel. And it's just a good example of like how the deck really, really beats. Pretty much if you play well, if you see it's a lot of tricky stuff you could do. Like it's very tricky. And people aren't really ready for some of the tricks that frogs can do. So it's one of my favorite decks ever. Like I love it. I love playing it.
So we have a thing on here, the lightning round. You know, we're gonna ask about like 10 questions. You know, about how you feel about Yu-Gi-Oh. Anybody want to chime in? Also, feel free to chime in. So we gonna ask you the best part of Yu-Gi-Oh.
The best part of Yu-Gi-Oh for me is always going to be the competition. From my grandfather down to my dad, down to me, I have a very competitive spirit. It like runs in my blood. Both my parents, so my dad is a gamer. My grandfather is a gamer actually too. My grandfather grew up playing Atari and Super Nintendo and stuff like that. Well, not grew up, but he played Atari and Super Nintendo, and he was in the Marines, so he loved games. And when I was younger, he would like show me how to play Mario and all types of stuff, like the knockout games with Mike Tyson, and he was just all into it. And then my dad plays Madden. He would play Tekken with me, Street Fighter. He plays like NBA 2K. He used to play NBA Street, like all of those games. And NBA Jams back on like the Sega Genesis when the ball turned on fire and stuff. So my family, like everyone in my household were gamers. So I grew up in a gaming household and we always had the new console. And my dad likes to win. And he would literally like win and then tease me. Like he would be like, yeah, you can't beat me. You'll never beat me. And that would make me so fucking angry. So I would like, while he would go to work or go to sleep or whatever. And I would play the game until midnight.
You teasing me again.
Yes, I would get in the lab and I would learn how to do stuff like in Mortal Kombat. I would eventually learn how to do fatalities. I would learn how to do Sub-Zero's Ice Ball. He would even tell me how to do stuff. He would be like, figure it out. Like, I'll be like, how do you do to get over here? He wouldn't tell me. And I would just have to press buttons. So eventually...
Figure it out is crazy.
Figure it out is wild. My dad was like so ruthless. But what it did was, it was like, you know, you can give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day, or you could teach a man a fish and he'll eat forever. So he's like, I'm not going to give you the answer. I want you to figure it out. And that made me have a work ethic. And it made me competitive too, because I wanted to win. I hated fucking losing. So my dad like really ingrained it into me where I was just super competitive. And then when I got older and I saw my grandfather and him interact, I realized that they would play games together and they were literally competing with each other. Like they would drink. They would just start drinking and they'd be like, who could finish more beers or whatever. Like they arm wrestle, do like weird dumb shit that everything was just competitive with them. Right. And because my grandfather is a Marine, like he's like super strong, even though he was like older, he's like a strong guy. He'd do 100 push-ups. My dad's like, I do 120. So now my dad's doing 120 push-ups. Then my grandpa was like, all right, I'll take it to 150. And my dad's like, I'll do 170. And I'm watching these two guys. Mind you, all of us are named Frazier Smith. All of us, like all three of us. I'm the third. So like,
that's crazy.
Yeah, so it's like Frazier Smith Senior, and then Frazier Smith Junior, and then Frazier Smith the third, which is me.
So I'll bring the Henny for the cookout, and then we get the I'll go watch y'all do the push-ups. I'm be faded.
But yeah, the competitive. So to answer your question, the short answer is competition is the best part of Yu-Gi-Oh to me.
All right, the worst part about Yu-Gi-Oh,
the people. The people are simultaneously the best and the worst part about Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Because like you need the people to play the game, and you make some lifelong friends. Like everyone on this call, we're all friends through Yu-Gi-Oh, basically. And so that I cherish that part about it. But then there's also like just people who don't wash, people who
you took the words out of my mouth.
People who just cheat and like they can't play fair. People who just like take the game too seriously, and it's like their whole life. There's just a lot of toxic stuff that happens in the community, and like it's a love-hate relationship with it. So the people are like the best and the worst part about it technically.
I said the characters. I love the characters. I love the characters, and they said the ones I said I hate the judges. That's the only thing I hate.
Speaking on people, real quick. Speaking on people, I guess this could be my question.
Say a name.
Favorite rival.
Name to it.
My favorite rival is definitely Sean McCabe, because Sean McCabe was the earliest person I can remember who beat me, and I could not beat him. So when I met him, I was 14 at JMC, and this random white kid comes in with blue eyes. His dad's with him, old man, and we play each other. and he like 2-0'd me the first time we ever played. But I wasn't playing a real deck. I think I was playing like Warrior Toolbox. I didn't know about Chaos at the time. I didn't know about metagame.com. I didn't know there was I didn't even know what a meta was. I was just playing decks that I liked. And so when I run into him, he's playing like the decks that people are topping Shonen Jumps with. I don't even know what a Shonen Jump is. So he's beating me with like Soldier and Chaos Sorcerer and Return from the, all the good stuff. And sorry, there's like a motorcycle. So he's beating me every week. I would come there and I would go every Saturday. So I would only get to go once a week to the store. And every single week, I'm talking about for a month straight, I would just lose to him. And it like infuriated me. And up until that point, I had pretty much been able to beat everyone in my circle. So I was basically a big fish in a small pond. But then I start venturing out to different locals, and I find that there are people out there who are better than me. So I don't beat him for, I don't know how long it actually was, but in my head, it had to be like a year, right? And when you're younger, time is so much longer. Like the summer seems like it's like a year, but now we're older. The summer is like a blip. So I don't know how much time it actually was, but I couldn't beat him for a very long time. And eventually we became friends. I started to actually beat him. And then it got to a point where we started to collaborate and like talk about Yu-Gi-Oh! Every day on AIM, which is for people who don't know, back in my day, like AIM, AOL Instant Messenger, we would talk on that while I was in college. And we essentially, they say like steel sharpens steel or iron sharpens iron. Because he was so good, it made me become better. And then I became really good, which made him better. And so we kept on laddering each other. Where at one point it's like he's better than me, and then I'm better than him, and then he's better than me, and then I'm better than him. And what that does is it makes you both ridiculous over time. Like we just became ridiculous. And
then y'all niggas in the finals together.
Yes, then we end up in the finals of a fucking YCS together. And it's just like the guy who I play tested with every night leading up to that YCS, we play tested for 30 days straight. Every single night for hours. I would play X-Sabers, I would play Plants, then he would switch it. He would play X-Sabers, he would play Plants, we play Lightsworn, Blackwings, trying out all these different decks to beat the Gravekeeper deck. And then we kept tweaking it and refining it and tweaking it and refining it. And eventually we showed up to the event, and it's me and him in the finals, which is like something that rarely has ever happened in Yu-Gi-Oh! Like that is super rare.
4 people played the deck. 3 of the 4 topped.
Yes, it took all the prize cards. The deck took all the prize cards.
The same 3 of the 4 was number 1, 2, and 3.
Yes, first, second, and third. Yep, took all of the prize cards.
I'm gonna get Hoagie on here. Don't worry.
Ash Ketchum. What's the other guy was? The other guy,
Gary O.
No, the 3 on the game. It was the 3 characters. You had the white one, you had the blue, you had the blue weird.
Oh, I know
red, blue, and yellow, I guess.
Red,
Gary, right?
Gary, and there was somebody else.
Yeah, Gary was there. The blue, red, and Gary, right? It's some weird shit like that.
I think that's the
So what's name was basically Gary. What's name is Gary?
Yeah, McCabe. Well, yeah, literally that.
Was Gary is crazy.
Yep. That's a good way to think about it.
Favorite card?
Dark Magician of Chaos, because at one point I started calling myself like the Dark Magician, and I always grew up really liking Dark Magician of Chaos. I think the card just looks insane. Like if you look at his art, even today, like that card just looks insane. And he also has a meta breaking effect. Back in the day, that card was used for FTKs, not OTKs, FTKs. So like D-Mog has a lot of respect on his name. And they even had to change his effect, I believe. Like later on, they nerfed it because he's that powerful that they had to nerf it.
I think you get on the N phase or some shit like that.
It's
on the N phase, and you can only activate his effect once per turn.
And it's once per turn, so they ruined the card basically.
So basically, he has to be on the field even for his effect to even resolve.
Yeah, on the N phase. Yeah,
on the N phase.
Favorite deck to play?
Right now is Frogs, easily. Frogs is just my absolute favorite deck right now. And I would say when I was playing modern Yu-Gi-Oh, I really enjoyed Necros, like the ritual deck that came out in 2014. That deck was really, really fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, Frogs right now for sure. Frogs is like, my heart is with that deck right now. I just feel so powerful playing it. And I don't feel like when I sit down that I can't win my match. Like I just feel confident going into it. Like when I sit down, I feel like I can beat you. Unless you fucking pull out cringe Glad Beast, and then I'm like, God damn it.
So my question to you, Frazier, is do you see yourself coming back to modern Yu-Gi-Oh?
No. I do not think I'll be playing modern Yu-Gi-Oh still.
We get done. No.
Yeah, the game is just like I think that they're two different things. Like I don't even think that I'm playing the same Yu-Gi-Oh like they just have the same name, but they're not the same game. Like Edison
But
and Modern are
you
so different fundamentally that they are not the same game.
It
you
is
want me
played
to?
in past formats, mid formats, current formats. Absolutely different experience, different type of
Yeah.
game.
Right. So
Um, yeah.
Oh, real
me,
quick, Goose, real quick. Let me get past the question real quick. Favorite format?
I'm gonna have to say that's a tough one. Favorite format.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it would have to be the format that I want to YCS in, like 2010 Gravekeeper format. Like that is my favorite format because that is the format that has like, you know, that was my first ever top for YCS, and then that kind of catapulted my whole Yu-Gi-Oh career. Like that was the beginning of everything for me.
Mhm.
Card you feel you put on the map?
Royal Tribute, Fiendish Chain. I wrote an article about Fiendish Chain back in like 2011 or something, or 2012, and that card shot up to like $45 right after I wrote the article.
Damn.
Then it started being played in triplicate on top of that, so that's definitely one of them. But yeah, those are some of the ones.
Favorite city to play in?
Cali. I love Cali. I go to Cali every 6 months at this point. Like Cali is such a fun place to be. It's beautiful. The weather's nice. Palm trees. The people are nice. The streets are big. The food is insane. The sights.
I just got my jacket today. That's why I got here late. I had to go out there and pick up my jacket.
Nice. Yeah, that jacket is insane.
Favorite pack?
Of Yu-Gi-Oh?
Yeah, this will kill me. I
actually know the answer to this. Pharaoh Servant, and the reason is because
Pharaoh Servant. Interesting.
Pharaoh Servant is the 4th pack of Yu-Gi-Oh, and it's the reason because when I started playing Yu-Gi-Oh, that was the newest pack. I packed a secret rare first edition Jinzo, my first time ever buying packs in my life.
Let's pick one of those up the other day. That's all I got to say something about it.
I think he's still like $60 right now. I think he's like $60.
No, I think he's worth more than that. He's more than that.
Jinzo.
They said the only one that's probably higher is the Tenzo. They said the Tenzo might be higher. That's crazy.
They said the first edition one. The first edition one, it got to be like $80 or something, like $60-$80. It's been between that range last time I checked. But he's been played.
I'm on TCG Player right now. First edition Pharaoh Servant Jinzo near mint is going for $425.
What you talking about, Goo?
That's the lowest. That's the lowest.
When I seen him,
that's the lowest. The next lowest is $699. There are only two. Right. There are two near mint first edition Jinzos. One is $425 and one is $700.
All right. Well, my next question would be, I think you might answer it, but favorite opponent.
Oh, I think I would say I can't just say that's one person. I would say it's a mix between McCabe and Silverman, and the reason is honestly McCabe, Silverman, and Gus. They're all different. So McCabe is like a mirror of myself. He doesn't talk during the game. I don't talk usually to people, so he's like a mirror of me, right? Like just a white version of me. We're very stoic. We're like statues when we play, and everything is like serious and about the game. Silverman is a person that talks during the game, and his intention is to deceive you, and he's really, really good at it. Like he'll say, "Oh, you're dead next turn for sure," and like he doesn't actually have game, but it will make you make a play where he now can kill you. Like he'll make you attack into a mirror force, or make you attack or summon into a torrential because he'll talk to you, and so I love playing against him because he always gets in my head, and I have to like learn to silence the noise. And then Gus, because ever since I've been younger, I think one of the most important things you could have as a skill in Yu-Gi-Oh, I think is like necessary, is you have to have tough skin. And having Gus from my childhood is like, I can deal with any amount of crowds, any amount of attention. There's nothing that you can say to me that can like shake me because I've been around the loudest person in the room since I was a kid. So like a lot of people would have, and the reason why this is relevant is because people get nervous, right? The higher you go, the more feature matches you get, the more crowds you get, the more attention you get, and you have to be able to deal with that. And so, you know, playing in Galaxy and like playing around like somebody like Gus, who's like very animated, very loud, talk shit. You have to be like, I have thick skin because of my dad, because my dad is just like an asshole too. But then like people like Gus, like also you have to have thick skin. So that helped. So those are my three that I would say like my favorite opponents.
That actually leads into my follow-up question, which was going to be, how has Yu-Gi-Oh helped you outside of Yu-Gi-Oh?
I think confidence. I think like charisma is a thing, and I have a lot of confidence because of Yu-Gi-Oh. Like after a while, you start to realize that if you believe in yourself, like other people will too. And they can feel that energy. Like energy is very real. So people can feel your energy and they gravitate towards you because of it. They like want to know who you are. So even when I am in an accounting standpoint, if I'm in a room full of accountants, like people still gravitate towards me. They like to hear me talk and speak, and like I'm pretty good at that type of thing. So I think in general, Yu-Gi-Oh has just helped me to develop my writing skills. At one point I was writing articles for a website called Alter Reality Games. And yeah, it's just helped a lot. Like charisma, uniqueness, you know, all those types of things. Just being comfortable with myself.
I got a question, right?
What's
If you can say one thing that you can thank Yu-Gi-Oh for, what would it be?
I think Yu-Gi-Oh got me through a lot of tough times, honestly. Like Yu-Gi-Oh, so everybody goes through like tough times in their life and things that are hard to deal with. For me in 2016, like I lost my grandmother. She's basically the person who raised me alongside my dad and my mom and everything. But my grandmother was there for me the most. So when I lost her, I was actually at a YCS in California, my favorite place. And it was 2016. But everyone who I was around really, and it was my birthday too. So it was crazy. Everyone who I was around made me feel super appreciated and just made me feel good in my probably darkest moment of my entire life, because I haven't really experienced loss outside of that. And that just was like a shock to me. That was like one of the worst things that's ever happened to me. So just the friends I made throughout Yu-Gi-Oh and how much they care for me outside of the game, like you, like literally so many of my friends actually care about me as a person, regardless of the Yu-Gi-Oh, regardless of tops and accomplishments and all that bullshit. Like people genuinely deal with me and put up with me, because I'm, you know, I can be a lot to deal with at times. Like I'm an asshole, right? Everyone knows that. But like everyone who I've met who tolerates me and appreciates me and you know, accepts me for being who I am, because I am gay and I'm black and like there's, you know, there's all the stuff that goes with that. People who just accept me for that, like I found a lot of family through Yu-Gi-Oh. So I guess the answer to that is just my Yu-Gi-Oh family is my favorite thing, not the best thing that's happened to me because of Yu-Gi-Oh.
100 that. I'm back.
100.
Favorite player to watch?
Favorite player to watch. So back in the day, it used to be Adam Corrin, because he would just destroy people, and that's like a spectacle. Like a kid, really, really young guy, just destroying people, became the national champion. So Adam Corrin would be like the answer to my favorite person to watch. He's just insane.
That guy is he even around anymore?
Was a
He
follower
lives
for a while back in the day.
He's a villain.
Yeah, no, he's not around anymore. I think he quit Yu-Gi-Oh. He got banned in like 2011, and then that was pretty much it.
I guess he was vanquished after that. So
Your dream three-man team.
My dream 3-man team. So there's a Matt.
So you'd be 2 other people.
Oh yes, I remember the Matt.
Yes, you said including myself, right?
Yeah, including yourself.
Okay, so there's a mat that has me, McCabe, and Silverman on it.
I seen that, Joe.
I seen that, Joe. Yeah.
And that would be my ideal 3v3. Like if there was an Edison YCS, we already said that like it would just be us 3. It would be us 3 playing together.
That's the nightmare right there.
Your man Silverman just recently won a YCS.
That's a nightmare.
He did. He won 2 3v3s now.
Yeah.
So pet peeve your opponents do.
I hate when people pick up my deck and shuffle it sideways.
Yes.
That shit bothers me so much.
I hate that too.
Immediately puts you on radar.
Yeah, I hate it so much.
And I learned from that by me watching you do that shit, and you was like, yo, parallel to the table, and I had people do that to me every time.
Yeah, like keep my shit face down, because I don't pick up people's decks. I do this shuffle where I keep the cards face down, and I kind of do this constantly to riffle shuffle it, but I take the bottom and just put it to the top constantly, and I shuffle like that. But I don't pick your deck up and shuffle it on its side, because you can see the bottom card, and you could do like all kinds of tricks and shit. And I'm really privy to like all of the tricks, so you're not gonna get me. But it's annoying because you gain an unfair advantage before the match starts, because you know what I'm playing, and like in Yu-Gi-Oh that could be a big deal if you know that I'm playing this deck, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna make my turn 1 play catered towards I know that you're playing frogs or whatever. So that's like my biggest pet peeve, is that when a match starts, do not pick up my deck and put it on its face. That's the one.
My one question, my next question is, do you feel as though modern Yu-Gi-Oh lost the ability to think versus Edison Yu-Gi-Oh?
No, that so a lot of people hate on modern Yu-Gi-Oh. you know, a lot of Edison people hate on modern Yu-Gi-Oh, but I don't buy into. I don't like to hate things just because I don't participate in them anymore. Because a lot of people do that, right? They'll graduate from something and they're like, that's beneath me now, or that's like corny or whatever, right? It's easy to hate on it because you're no longer a part of it. But I was once that guy playing in those formats, doing all the crazy shit. Whatever was broken at the time, I played it, right? Whatever the most expensive deck was, whatever the best deck was, I played it. So I can't remove myself from Yu-Gi-Oh! And then say I hate Yu-Gi-Oh! Right? That would be corny of me. But what I will say is that, and this is the point I made earlier, I think that the games are so different. Like Edison and modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Are just two different skill sets. There's a completely different skill set that's being used in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! That I value. It's deck building is insane, and understanding how to play through hand traps and understanding all of your lines. So that's something I don't have to deal with in Edison. Like I don't have to play through hand traps really in Edison. The worst hand trap that they can do for me is DD Crow in my standby phase, and that's like, that's it. Like that's all you can really do to me. So there's a skill in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! There are skills in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! That I appreciate that the new school of players, they have these skills to build their decks a certain way and to play through boards. Like playing through a board with negates and back row and hand traps is really difficult, and that requires a lot, and that's why the turns take 15 minutes.
Right.
So I wouldn't say that it lost its skill. I think that it's just a different skill.
The only thing I hate about modern Yu-Gi-Oh right now is
I like how you put on yourself.
No. I'm just saying. The thing I dislike about it now is that 15 of those cards in your deck is geared towards hand traps. So you have to choose at least 15 hand traps. Now that's insane. And
that's not always true though. A lot of
I get what you're saying.
There are people who top with 15 hand traps, but I think another thing about modern Yu-Gi-Oh is that there are a lot of different decks and a lot of different deck builders, and you see people who top with no hand traps, and their deck is all engine. So it's like, even if you hand trap me, you can't stop me because my deck has so many extenders, and I can play through hand trap. Like some people build their Source Soul decks to play through 2 to 3 hand traps. Like, they can just play through 2 or 3 hand traps. They're like, all right, you Ash my Moye, okay, special summon this guy, make this 10 yi, and then just keep going, right? They can just keep going, and you do another hand trap, like, oh, I can keep going through that too. And that's, again, that's a skill, but it's just a different skill to have. Like I don't play modern Yu-Gi-Oh, so I don't have that skill, but I'm sure if I played, I would develop it really quickly.
All right, last two questions. Favorite pre-release?
The pre-release with Grandmaster the Six Samurai came out. Striker
We talked about this last time.
Yeah, I remember that.
Everybody was like Grandmaster
on the table.
I told you.
Goose finding people leaving their Grandmasters on the table. Crazy.
Yeah, that was a good one.
I told you, that shit was lit.
Last question.
$20 cards.
Last question of the night. Weirdest ruling.
Okay, so I just learned this last week, like literally last week. I've been playing Edison format for over a year now. It's been like a year and 2 months. I just found out that Archlord Christia, you know how Archlord Christia, when it dies, it goes on the top of the deck. There's so many weird rulings with this in Edison format, and they probably are still like this, but I don't know what it's like in modern, because Christia's probably not really played. But in Edison format, I just found out last week, and I've been playing with this card for a while. When Christia dies and goes on the top of the deck, that does not activate. It just happens. It doesn't start a chain, so it can't be negated by Light Mirror or anything. I've been under the impression this entire time for over a year playing this format that if I Light Mirror, that Christia will go in, that it activates and that it will go in the graveyard because Light Mirror negates things that activate. Light Mirror doesn't negate things that don't activate those. So like if somebody has a Christia and you have Light Mirror, you still can't special summon monsters because Light Mirror only negates activated effects of light monsters in the graveyard and on the field. So that changes my whole perception of everything because now it's like, wait, so Christia doesn't activate. It's like a Burning Abyss monster then. It's like when a Burning Abyss monster dies, that doesn't start a chain. Like when they die from their own effect, like if you control like something else.
Yeah. That's amazing.
They just leaves the field. It happens. It just happens instantly. You can't be like, oh, I want to respond to that. You can't do anything. So I didn't know that. And then apparently, if Skill Drain is on the field though, Christia goes to the graveyard.
How does that even work?
It's right. Like it's like, wait a second. I thought that.
Come out.
So these rulings I just found out last. It's really weird. I just found these rulings out last week, and when I tell you, like, my mind was blown, I was like, "What the fuck?" So I've been playing with this card wrong this entire time. Like,
I have been
Nightmare
too.
is almost
I
like
actually play
skill drain.
Christia in my modern deck. I run Virtual World and I have Christia.
oh, here's another
comes
crazy
up,
ruling.
like-
I bet you didn't know this one. While Macrocosmos is active, Christia is still returned to the top of the deck if it dies.
How?
That actually matters because
That's huge.
Have interaction with like Christia and like a Rise Heart on the field or something like that.
So it don't hit the graveyard then. It don't hit the graveyard.
It never hits the graveyard. It goes straight to the top of the deck.
Oh, so the only time it hit the graveyard is when the skill drain on board.
That's what it says. Yep.
Oh, all right. So basically, the card is just like it never touches the graveyard.
It never touches
But
the graveyard.
Activate,
It's effect, yeah. But when it's on the field, yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Oh, okay. All right. Now you
interesting,
explaining it that
I
way.
get it now. I get it now.
You think you
'Cause
know a
now
guy,
I definitely
right?
understand. Yeah, I understand it now. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
but I didn't know that. And when you read it, you can't tell it either.
Okay, so basically on the top of the deck effect is pretty much a field effect, is what you're saying.
Basically,
Once you-
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Because
all right. So
it's basically a field effect because it's negated by skill drain, which means it has to be a field effect.
okay, so it's like Dark Magician of Chaos. When you do anything to remove him from the
He
field,
always gets banished. That's the best way to look at it. No matter what happens to Dark Magician of Chaos, right? He gets banished no matter what, basically. When he's removed from the field, same thing with Plague Splitter. Like if you compulse it or if you wing blast it, it gets banished.
Doesn't matter if skill drain on the field or whatever, it just goes.
Right. Yep.
Okay.
So yeah,
All right,
Christia has some really weird rulings, and the Macrocosmos one really surprised me because I've had people Macrocosmos me, and I was like, oh yeah, they killed it, so like they mirror force it, and I'm like, oh, it's banished. The whole time it actually goes to the top of my deck, which is crazy because that might be able to special summon it again.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. That's
So
wild.
that concluded all my questions. Once again, got Frazier Smith here. Very, very great interview with all my hosts that are with us. But shout out to Blerd.com. Once again, go to Blerd.com. Go watch the article for this. Go watch Gus's episode. It's up there. Episode 1. This conversation with a duelist. Name pending. I don't know. We might keep the name. I don't know. But also, IMNerdPodcast. If you can tell us what the next episode you're gonna have on, let us know.
So we're recording tomorrow for Demon Slayer episode 1 that just came out for season 3, the Swordsmith Village arc.
Mm-hmm.
They did like an hour-long episode. So tomorrow, Kenny and I will be discussing that on the podcast. So we're doing our Demon Slayer episode. We always like to do episode 1 of an anime because that's when there's the most promise, like when you don't know where the season's going, so you can speculate. And then we'll do another episode on it, like towards the end of the season, to say like what actually ended up happening and were any of our theories correct, that type of thing. So should be a pretty fun discussion because that episode, that hour-long one, was absolutely crazy. Like I have so many questions now. But yeah.
Yeah, IMNerdPodcast.
Spotify, Apple Music, everything.
Yeah,
Good podcast. I chime in all the time.
Good content.
The description.
Thank you guys.
We'll put that in there. Gus' deck profile. That link will also be in the description for this one. So I mean, this is episode 2, man. Conversation with a duelist.
2 in the bag.
Fresh Prince of Fundamentals, Sean Brown. Where they can find you at? What you got going on?
Why you choose that photo of all though?
I
just
didn't choose that one, actually.
That's what I
They
said.
can find me online, Facebook, Sean Brown, YouTube, anytime,
That's what I said.
Yeah, why you choose that photo?
profiles and stuff.
I didn't choose it, but I had that out
Who
there.
chose it then?
The oldest chose it. The oldest chose it.
Oh, this is crazy, bro. You like the Rugrat shit?
He like maybe like the graffiti in the background. I don't know.
Oldest.
Earl Boone, AK Gus, where they can find you at?
I mean, Earl Boone only on Blerd, and Gussie Baby 05 on Instagram and Earl Boone on Facebook.
And then Legoose.
Go follow your Blerd Cartel. I mean, I'm always on here. So, I mean, follow me on here.
Oh, thanks. Great. Anyways,
Genzo, baby.
Genzo.
Wrapping this John up. Made Spider Can, aka Mr. AK, the Watch Duelist. He's showing that Tenzo off. That 420.
Oh no, that's a good one.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one.
The Pharaoh Servant boy.
There's only 2. Yep.
I just picked up that and
I think I got mine in the tank can somewhere.
Just in Christie's.
Tomorrow round table. The Riz Guy tournament will be up, but we're gonna see it tomorrow. You know what I mean, Will Chamberlain versus Cleopatra in the bracket. So who raised up?
What?
But we out here, you know, episode 3. You know what I mean?
So who the next one? Who's next?
I'm trying to get Traps on here. I'm trying to get
the Jared.
The Jared.
He went to Jared.
Anybody can pull up.
I'm gonna hit him up. I DM'd him the video. He said he liked it, so you know.
Tell him to pull up. So you know, Frazier, you didn't interview the Jared before. He's too local for you, mate. So I don't know.
No, it's not even that.
He said he's too local for.
We'll
take Jared on for episode 3 if you want to.
We're gonna get Flame Game on here too. Oh man,
you
had to get the Flame Game, bro. You gotta get the Flame, man.
We out of here.
All right, see you guys. Have a good night.